It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 420. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Hello.
Grace.
Hello.
Kodra.
Blaze it?
Tam.
Wow. Hello.
And Thalen.
Enhance your calm, I guess.
I wondered if we would go there.
420, man. It's one of the funny numbers.
Yeah.
Which is why it's an unofficial HTTP code that has a funny definition.
I saw something where it was like 69 is the nice number. Nobody knows why, but everyone just says nice after it.
Nice. So, I guess there have been OGL updates.
Oh boy.
They released the feedback numbers where basically everyone
disliked this.
Yes.
It's like 90% of our respondents said they hated this.
I am shocked.
Yeah. And I guess some people at Wizards of the Coast looked at that and realized, like, oh, they don't actually need us for anything, do they?
There's a couple of ways to interpret this data, but the effect of this is SRD, all system reference document material is going under Creative Commons.
All SRD 5.1 material.
5.1.
Let's make sure that keep that completely clear.
I don't quite grok the difference here, so maybe
nothing future is guaranteed to be Creative Commons. Nothing past is Creative Commons.
Right.
Wait, nothing past is Creative Commons?
Correct. Except 5e rules.
Oh, except 5e rules. So
Yep.
3.5 is not Creative Commons?
The old OGL is still the old OGL.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So they've also said that they are not deauthorizing OGL 1.0a. But as some people have pointed out, that just means they aren't doing it now and may try and do it in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry, but it's too late. They've unmasked at this point.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be like, whoa, whoops, nope, please come back.
But the trust is gone.
Yeah.
The trust is gone.
And this is very much we're putting the thing that we're about to replace with a new version in the Creative Commons.
That's fair, but like at least the gaming space has experience with what to do when it's time to just abandon Dungeons and Dragons for about 5 years before they realize what a colossal mistake 4E was.
I mean, someone wasn't paying attention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have to say, reading, so Jason Bullman is the, lead designer and, the person who wrote the initial Pathfinder first edition rules. Basically, as he was talking about it, this past week, it was this was just a document I had saved as, how home rules errata for 3.5, and we just turned it into a book, and that's how Pathfinder 1 felt.
Oh yeah.
But it's yep, okay, we're gonna release this, we're gonna call it Pathfinder, and it kind of sucks that this company that I had built my identity around, I had built my business around, decided to up and abandon me, and I felt completely abandoned, and is so just remember, companies are not your friends. They are soulless entities out to make profit. Even mine. I'm not wholly invested in Pathfinder the way I was in Dungeons and Dragons, and I created it.
Yeah. I mean, it can never truly be the same.
In the meantime, the 8-month supply reprinting of Pathfinder 2 is gone in 4 weeks?
Oh yeah.
It's all gone. Yeah.
Took them 14 days to sell out of what should have been an 8-month supply of Pathfinder 2 books.
Which tells you a lot right there. How much does that stick? Hard to say. But there's a bunch of people looking around when they previously wouldn't have been, and that's the that's the nail in the coffin.
I've seen a lot of, we're finishing this campaign, but the next one will be in something else.
I've also seen a lot of that, yes.
I have seen a lot of speculation that this is Hasbro just trying to get them past the Dungeons and Dragons movie. Like, they really don't want the Dungeons and Dragons movie to go down because of all of this.
Oh, buddy.
I mean, it's like, okay, even if it's a good movie, that Dungeons and Dragons movie's got some baggage to carry. Like, there have been some pretty not good Dungeons and Dragons movies already.
Yeah, I don't know. I was I'm gonna be honest. I was really excited for this one.
Same.
I like they had me at the druid shapeshifting into an owlbear. I was like sold. I'm in.
That was cool.
You've got a Chris being a bard, and that seems hilarious.
Bard? No, he's just a rogue. Clearly just a rogue.
He's the one that comes up with the plans. But yeah, it looked good. It looked like they had kind of figured out how to do a good Dungeons and Dragons movie, and it's like, oh man, this is kind of a mess to be going into the press with. So yeah, it sure seems like Wizards is trying to back down at as rapid a pace as possible.
Yeah,
I mean, they had an initial reply that was a non-reply, and then a reply that was an actual apology, and maybe we'll try to do better. And now no, actually, wait, we need to be backpedaling harder 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And even then, I think we can be clear, this is only just for now. Like, it has been very clear for months that Hasbro very much wants the new D&D to be a subscription service. And subscription services need licenses.
Oh, man.
And, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's still where we're headed for D&D 1 or whatever it's called.
Well, and more than that, like, I think this is Hasbro only has one business unit that's making money, and they are trying to ride that one business unit as hard as humanly possible. Apparently the figure business isn't making that much.
So forth.
Apparently the figure business isn't doing that well. I don't know.
Which surprises me. I thought like everything collectible was doing well.
Toys aren't.
Hasbro doesn't understand how to price things.
Yeah, toys aren't for children anymore, and it's a mess. It's all just a mess.
Like, even their stuff that should be appealing to people isn't, because they price it like twice as much as it should cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I mean, basically, Magic the 30th happened in
was a sign of things to come.
Well, no, like it happened in the figure market years ago from Hasbro.
It's fair.
It is funny watching the people in the Magic community be like, wait, these D&D nerds managed to bully Wizards so hard that they back down. We need their energy.
I mean,
they should be probably a little bit concerned about whatever Disney is doing.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, probably that's probably not a small reason why this whole thing is happening to begin with. Because it's like, okay, how do you squeeze Magic in a world where Disney has released a competitor, assuming that competitor is good? Like, what, you're gonna go up against the mouse? Yeah, all right, sure. So you squeeze something else, and so they did, and that was a bad idea.
I mean, there's this whole pursuit of short-term profit is a bad idea thing, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of businesses all over the place that benefited from everybody is stuck at home for a while, and apparently instead of let's use this opportunity to firm up our businesses, the takeaway was, oh man, we're geniuses, this is great, this is a gravy train, it's gonna go on forever. And like, I don't know, the writing was on the wall, man. The writing was on the wall in March of 2020.
But line goes up. The line must always go up.
We aren't talking about crypto right now.
Yeah, but we're talking
about the same philosophy.
It's true.
Yeah.
It all stems from the same root.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're not growing, you're dead.
Yep. There is no room anymore in this world for a company that carries on just, being stable and making sufficient money to keep going and keep everybody paid. Because that's not an investment vehicle. Everything must be an investment vehicle.
Maybe not everything needs to be an investment vehicle.
Blasphemy.
Sometimes thing is just a useful product.
So there's the thing is though, like, and this is where like businesses are complicated enough, like to be able to even to just operate your business, you probably need lines of credit. And like, if lines of credit are all driven by like people looking for investment vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing is you can't opt out of this. You're not allowed to be that company. The necessary support no longer exists.
Yep. You need to find a bank that's willing to lend to you with you're not going to get as good of terms as other investment vehicles. So people who figure out how to make your business look like an investment vehicle will be able to outcompete because they're just going to get basically a bunch of free money to do so.
Yep. And long term, they'll set all that money on fire, but they'll parachute out and leave the company to crash and burn. It's all fine.
And this is why I am perfectly happy to pay the new normal price for a video game. Because you know what a $70 video game is mostly not doing?
Paying for its own production.
Well, paying for its own production and lacing itself with a bunch of
live services and
live service nonsense.
Yeah. Ways to squeeze more money out of you perpetually.
Yeah, it is nice to occasionally be able to just, pay X amount of money for a thing, and then I have that thing.
Mm-hmm. Either AAA was going to learn from MMOs, or MMOs were going to learn from AAA, and we really wanted MMOs to learn from AAA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the problem is now other products are learning from subscription model products.
Oh, they learned a long time ago.
Like I watched a bit of a presentation from the CES about how subscription service features on cars is the newest thing.
God.
I mean, maybe long term it'll be what finally kills automobile culture. I don't know.
Maybe. Like we have 2 vehicles. They're both paid off. We don't want to buy another one anytime soon.
Yeah.
I don't remember who it was, but somebody does have heated seats as a subscription.
What?
No,
I believe
that's a thing. That's a thing. It's either BMW or Mercedes.
Well, I'm never buying a car in that price range anyway, so it doesn't really matter, right?
It has heated seats as a subscription. But like apparently that's the thing that a lot of automobile companies are eyeing is like things that they can charge reoccurring income because people seem to really want everything to be reoccurring income.
Because they realize, all their cars have software in them already now. We can just, take the things that software controls and turn them off.
People are going to jailbreak their own cars.
I mean, yes.
Like, that's where that leads. People jailbreak their own cars.
Right, but that's illegal.
Not really.
You wouldn't download a car.
I absolutely would. If I could download and 3D print a car, I sure as hell would.
I mean, this has been a whole thing with farm equipment for years now.
It's been going in and out of the courts repeatedly.
Well, and printers too.
With no actual winners at all. Not even the companies, because it's completely inconsistent.
Yeah, because no judges understand it, and it is a mess.
I don't know the specifics, but it sounds like New York basically shot a blow at right to repair, so because the quote-unquote right to repair bill didn't go far enough.
Yeah. Well, and you run into the problem now that even if you have the right to repair your thing, like so much stuff is designed, in such a way as to make it effectively impossible to repair.
Yeah.
And that is why I own a framework laptop.
I have no way to transition into this, so I'm just going to. Fire Emblem Engage.
It's a game that exists. It came out a little over a week ago now. I've definitely had less time with it than I would like, because this has been kind of a crazy week for me. Fire Emblem Engage is the latest mainline Fire Emblem game.
Yes.
So tactical RPG with some character progression and an overarching story, so on and so forth. This one is much less slice of life than Three Houses was. Much, much less. you're on a grand journey to save the world, because of course you are.
You and your small army, I guess?
Absolutely. Usually start out with like yourself and a few retainers or something, maybe like some royalty. And this one, you quickly build up an army in that vein. Although you do have a flying fortress headquarters thing. I'm not really sure how all that works. Anyway, this one is interesting. The title mechanic is the Engage system, in which it pulled a main hero from each of the past 12 games. And you can fight alongside those heroes, the power of their, not bond rings, it's the other thing.
Emblem rings.
Emblem rings.
It's the fire emblems.
Yes.
But that leads to an interesting thing where you can, instead of pairing up your characters in your army, you pair up characters with these previous heroes to sort of give them extra abilities, give them access to sort of a super mode. And this feels, when you first get it, this feels really broken. This feels really completely busted compared to anything you had access to in any of the previous games I've played, except maybe Awakening's pair-up system, which eventually meant that you took no damage and could kill anyone in one turn because you could get 2 attacks in. But this has clearly been designed with this in mind. Like the second emblem ring you get lets character move 5 extra spaces. So maps are a little bigger, so that's not completely broken. People spawn in such a ways that encourages splitting up your forces, things like that. So the actual tactical maps in this game are rather more interesting than most of the previous games I've played.
That's cool. Honestly, that's been kind of one of the things that has been a critique of mine of Fire Emblem games.
The combat has been very fun so far. I'm up to like chapter 12, and it's just been, the maps have been really great to play.
Yeah, that's about how far I am too. But yeah, the maps have been cool. The character progression is kind of cool because similar to previous games where you have classes and they can promote to other classes. But fighting with emblem rings and or fighting with bond rings gives you SP. And if you get enough of a relationship with an emblem ring, you can learn abilities from that ring, even if you're not wearing it. So that plays out pretty well as well, also. But yeah, really fun game.
Nice.
You can learn about... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they do throw a lot of different characters at you in the early chapters. So it gives you lots of choice to, like, what sort of units you want to start out with and then kind of build them up from there. So they give you a decent amount of options and stuff to think about.
Do not expect to be surprised by this story.
No.
No, not at all. Void mentioned that even farther along in the game, there are no real surprises, and it ends the way JRPGs end. By going completely off the rails.
Always.
Also, get ready to learn a whole bunch about Fire Emblem characters you've never had an opportunity to play with.
Yeah, a lot of these characters are from games that never came out in English.
Yeah.
So that's a little weird by itself.
Who's Sigurd? I don't know, but he rides on a horse.
Basically.
Yep. I think it's cute that the bond rings that you can manufacture with your spirit gems are all like characters from all these emblems games.
Yeah, some of them are from games like Path of Radiance, where I've actually played this game. And some of them are from games like whatever game Sigurd is from. I have no idea what game Sigurd is from.
I mean, a lot of these characters you've probably seen from games like Super Smash Brothers.
I'll be honest, that's
Super
where
Smash
I know
Brothers
most
only
of the
has-
characters from.
Yeah.
Super Smash Brothers only has Melee had 2 Fire Emblem games and literally debuted one of them because it came out before his own game did.
I mean, it's got Roy and Marth.
Yep.
I know this because the versions of Roy and Marth in my head will always be the versions of Roy and Marth from that one webcomic, Awkward Zombie.
Yep. But Roy was in Smash Brothers. Marth is in Smash Brothers. Marth is basically the main character of the first game, so he kind of earns his right to be wherever he wants.
He's the hero king.
Yes. But Roy was from a GBA game that never came out here in English. Ike's game did at least come out here. That was the first game on the game. That was the game on the GameCube and the Wii.
Yep.
But it is still neat to see some of this stuff.
I was going to say, Roy gets to be everywhere because he had a cool fire sword, and that was awesome.
It's true.
Yep.
That's his current claim. That's his current claim to fame, really. Even in this game, it's pretty much his claim to fame.
I mean, you could play Marth in Super Smash, but Roy had a sword that was on fire.
But Marth was better.
Oh,
Marth
sure.
was much, much better.
Sure. Uh-huh. I wasn't good at Smash Brothers, remember? Roy's sword was on fire. Was he slower? in like every way, yes, but it was on fire and it hit for a lot of damage.
It did hit for a lot of damage. A more balanced version of Roy is in the current Smash Brothers. He's not quite as sluggish anymore. He still hits for like 1,000,000 D damage, provided you're directly in your enemy's face.
Which, I mean, if you have a flaming sword, that's where you want to be.
It's true.
The emblem system is a lot of fun, and combat feels really... you can take your time with it, but like the actions are nice and punchy, and they feel really good when you pull off a cool tactic. I like it.
It's funny when I see interactions I didn't entirely predict, like, oh, instead of double attacking this dude, I actually hit this dude 5 times because I get an extra attack when I break, and I get an extra attack because my ally is near me or something.
Yeah.
And well, I guess we're one-rounding him. Didn't expect that, but that's what's happening now.
Yeah, the addition of like the backup characters is really cool. Just like stacking those up, and if you get a break in, that feels it's very satisfying.
Tam, tell me about Forspoken.
Oh man. So okay. Blah blah, the discourse for this game is so dumb. Just so dumb. Because this game is good. Like
what is the discourse?
So the discourse is a bunch of people posting out of context clips of the game being like, oh, the dialogue is so bad.
Oh, like they tried to take Mass Effect Andromeda and succeeded?
Yeah.
Well, so the thing is, they're posting all of these things where it's like, this is terrible dialogue. And so, like, I saw this and I was like, oh, well, okay, what's this terrible dialogue going to be? And then I listened to it and I was like, oh, this looks like it'd be this is interesting. I think this sounds like a fun game to play. Like,
Same.
I kind of want to check this out now. Thanks, haters.
Like, yeah.
So the thing about the dialogue in this game is that this is an isekai. This character is incredibly fish out of water and acts like it. But I think people were expecting like grand fantasy heroine.
No.
And that's not what this game is.
Right. Like this game is not grand fantasy heroine. And it's like, it's also not, it is a well thought out character. Like, you know, isekai characters tend to be like, usually they're unhappy about some aspect of their life.
I mean, the classic is sad office worker got hit by a truck.
Yeah, I mean, so I feel like their isekai is a genre trope that requires you to ask some questions about why are you doing an isekai. Like some people do isekais now just because it's like I want to self-insert myself into this fantasy world.
It's the hot thing. What more do you need?
I mean, that's what Knights and Magic is definitely doing.
Yeah.
I just remember we watched that anime where the like office worker was born as a child into a world with Gundams and was
that
the
was
best.
Knights and Magic.
That's Knights and Magic. Okay. Oh boy.
So I thought that show was going to be fan service, and it is, but it's not the type of fan service that I expected it to be. It's author insert loves giant robots.
It's author
so
insert
much.
Loves so many giant robots. Yes.
I mean, so much of the recent isekai animes are effectively being adapted from fanfic, so this does not surprise me.
Yeah. I mean,
but some of it is actually interrogating, like, what would it be like for you to be this fish out of water? And that's kind of what Forspoken is doing. And I find those types of isekai very interesting.
Yeah, like, there's the... So, okay. Spoilers for the first 10 minutes of Forspoken, I guess. But, like, your character is an orphan in modern day New York who was raised by the state, and like the game has things to say about that because it sure isn't a happy life. And like it opens up with like a judge in a courthouse magnanimously letting the character letting Frey off from, you know, breaking and entering basically, and being like, oh, you should live up to your potential. You've got so much potential. You should live up to your potential. And it's like, how? There's nothing like that's a laughable fantasy to do that, because there's no way to do that. You get jumped by people on your way home who are like mad that you got caught because this thing that you're supposed to steal for them is like it's so clearly like this systemic struggle. And so so you've got a character who doesn't really trust people, certainly doesn't trust authority of any kind, but comes by it honestly. And so, okay, now you're in a fantasy world, which honestly sucks. You don't really want to be there, and you're not like, it's not really better than where you were. And it's really, for me, it was really interesting looking at like how the bit where you're a fish out of water isn't a bit. It's character development. Like it starts with your character just adamantly refusing to even bother to get the names of the places that you visit right. Like just blatantly being like, whatever, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that name. You know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And gradually getting to like, oh, like this is a place that matters to people. This is a name that matters to people. Like, I guess I could get it right. But you see it through the lens of like, nobody can get New York right. Like you talk about New York, and she's just like tired of having to explain New York as a concept to people within like the third person, which is admittedly about the same time as the joke gets old. But as a result, it's actually really sharp writing in a bunch of different places. It's just that it's an isekai coming by way of a Marvel movie. Like reluctant hero with superpowers in a world that they came to from the real world. Like, yeah, the dialogue is spot on for that. You know, down to you making down to Frey makes an offhanded comment and people are like, by your tone, that was probably unkind. I don't know what you said means, but it didn't sound nice. And like, I don't know, the story is important because it's a Square game, so the first few hours are pretty cutscene heavy, and you're attached to your Navi in this game is like a talking bracer that's magic in some way, hard to unexplained thus far. And like this is a the bracer character is like, I'm a well-respected magic thing, talking magic item, you should at least be like a little bit in awe of that. And Frey's like, no, this is dumb, I want you off of me. Like they just dislike each other fundamentally. And it's basically, I mean, like buddy cop movies have been doing this for years. It's the exact same dynamic. And like you hit points where they're constantly sniping at each other because neither of them wants to. They're both too proud to admit that they kind of like the other person, or at least accept that they're in it together. And so like every so often they'll stumble into actually saying something nice to the other person, and then you get this neat bit of character dialogue. So I mean, long story short, once you know what you're getting into, the writing is great. Like it's not perfect. There's a couple of things that are sort of the other thing that's been brought up is like, oh, early on you have to escape a burning building and you've got a bag with your life savings that you don't pick up because you go after your cat first, and when you go back to get it, it's all burned up. Like, why didn't you grab the duffel bag and then go find your cat? Like,
that's not how finding a cat works.
Yeah.
I mean that sounds like people who don't know cats complaining about people who do like cats.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's a character building moment. It's a really important character building moment, because up to that point, your character's really they set up Frey as really mercenary because of necessity. So the like, hey, I really care about my cat, even above this thing that could get me out of this like crappy life situation, is a sort of important. It's an important character beat to establish this character is not just a complete mercenary, like a complete heartless mercenary, and she's flawed. Like you know this from the get-go. But then you get into the actual game, and it's like, oh, I compared it to something. Now I'm upset because I can't remember what the. I was really proud of the comparison I made, but it's like a good Sonic the Hedgehog game meets like a good 3D Sonic the Hedgehog game meets like Control.
So you're moving quickly in 3D space?
Yeah. So like if you're familiar with Control, third person over the shoulder magic telekinetic powers, you have a basic attack which you can swap between a few different options. You've got a special attack which recharges fairly quickly, and you've got a super which recharges slower but is, a big deal. And then you've got a button that's your like, I don't know, the game basically just calls it your magic parkour button. And that's basically what it is. It's your like, go really fast. You can go really fast. You dash up and around and over obstacles. You can run up walls a short ways. And it takes this open world game and really amps up the speed. Like you can move across the game world. And it's not that hard to control. Like you have to get a little used to navigating heights, which is why I make the Sonic the Hedgehog comparison, because that's usually the thing that you have to figure out. But like, there's no falling damage. You just go. And it also works in combat, so you can move at speed in combat. So it really, games like Control or like, I don't know, Gears of War is another sort of example of that over the shoulder, mostly ranged attack kind of thing. A lot of them, they keep you in relatively tightly enclosed spaces because in order to be good with aiming, you need these sort of constrained spaces. You need to not be moving super fast. And Forspoken solves this problem by basically giving you special attacks when you are entering or leaving, parkour mode, which are big flashy combos and big hits. And so you end up with this like actually really mobile dash around, find a good vantage point, take a few shots, dash around again, kind of approach. And you got a bunch of basic attacks. Like I have probably 3 different things that can be my basic attack right now, and like 4 or 5 specials, and only one super so far. But they all behave fairly differently, and they're, even though I only use one of them because I like it the most, the other ones have purposes, like have reasons to use them. I just haven't been into it. But yeah, it's fast, it's snappy. It's got pretty cool it's open worldy, and so there's like random stuff you can find, but it's relatively lightweight open world stuff. It's got the occasional Breath of the Wild mini dungeon to go into, and those are pretty fun. It's got the occasional like, hey, here's a random super boss out in the world. And I'm mostly sad because that the game is probably going to do badly. Square is probably going to shut down whoever was working on it, because that's how this goes. And like, the game deserves so much better.
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be worse if it were just a straight fantasy.
Because I kind of figured I'd play it at some point. I didn't end up pre-ordering it because I wasn't really terribly interested in any of the pre-order bonuses.
Yeah, I don't even know what they are.
Some cloaks and some necklaces and some nail polish colors.
Yeah, gear. I mean, that was actually another thing that I thought was sort of neat, is like, okay, the contrivance of your gear slots are cloak, necklace, and nails. And like, okay, yes, this is a pure aesthetic. We're playing with pure aesthetic here. And because it's an isekai, it works. Because you can have the character be like, your character can snark off about the like nail painting thing. Because she's like, yeah, I don't do this. Like, I guess this could be useful, but like, this is not me. And she's right, it's not. But visually, it's cool. It looks awesome. Because you get these like little trails following you if they're cool enough, and like just aesthetically, it's a cool aesthetic. But yeah, I have been, in my severely limited game time lately, I've been playing a bunch of that.
How is it on deck?
I have not actually tried it on deck. I should load it up. I don't know if it has.
I'm not sure I would suggest. I mean, The published PC requirements were indicated in less than well-optimized port.
I have no idea what's up with that. It runs like a dream on my machine.
That's what I've heard too. I don't know why they published requirements that were so dumb.
Like, yeah, I have no idea what's up with the published requirements. Like,
but it does make me wonder, like, if you get too far below your PC, if things go badly quickly.
It's possible.
Is there a demo for it on PC?
There is now, but it didn't release until the game's launch date. But there is a PC demo now.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the other thing is it's really easy. Like, so I did actually load up the demo separately. The game onboards you a whole lot better than the demo does. Holy crap. Like, I kind of get why they didn't give you, like, why they start you kind of in the middle of things on the demo, because the game takes a little bit to get, it's like if you had a Persona demo, like, where would you put people?
Right.
I wouldn't make a Persona demo.
Right. The fact that a demo exists for this game at all is honestly kind of a surprise. But I find it's better at teaching me why I should care about things, because like combat can get pretty quick, and I'm playing it on super easy mode because I don't have the time to bother. But like, I might actually go back and play it on a harder mode later, or bump up the difficulty if I can, because as I get used to the combat, it's like pretty compelling, and mostly it's easy. It's really easy on easy mode, unless you're fighting stuff that the game outright tells you shouldn't be right now, which it also doesn't stop you from doing, but
that'll make things harder.
Yeah, it'll make things harder. But like, I really enjoy, getting used to the tells of the super bosses and dodging at the right times, and, tagging their weak points and so on and so forth. But yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with that.
It sounds really neat, and I'm gonna have to pick it up.
Like, yeah, it's cool. I like the character. There's a bunch of like, I really want to see where it goes with some of the story stuff, because it's gone in a few places that I was sort of unprepared for. There's definitely some latent fanfic that you can set up between a handful of characters, and I can't tell if that's intentional or not. The weirdest part about really high fidelity, like high visual fidelity games, is I'm never sure. I'm genuinely never sure if, like, is that smoldery look real, or is that just like a visual quirk?
Is that just weirdness with the rigging?
Yeah, is this a weird rig, or like, is this a weird rig, or like, are they actually making smoky eyes at each other? What's happening here?
It can be either, whichever you want, Tam. Spent enough time on Tumblr recently to not shy away from anything. So, something that happened over, I don't know, the break is Tam has been playing a lot of Lotro.
Yep.
And also convinced a handful of us to play some more Lotro.
Yep.
Like, I have mixed feelings about this.
I dusted off my mid-80s champion in the middle of Rohan. He's now a mid-90s champion in the middle of Rohan.
Wow, that sounds like a long zone.
Land of ice skating horses powered by elastic.
Yeah, this started. Children's books are mind-numbing.
Often.
Let me start here. Like, I can only read Goodnight Moon. Like, my partner would be annoyed to hear this. I can only read Goodnight Moon so many times before my brain wants to escape my ears.
Why are we saying goodnight to nobody? That's the creepiest line in any children's book ever.
Yeah.
Just a blank page. Good night, nobody. Who's there?
Somebody got us a children's book which reads like, the recurring line is, this little baby, as everyone knows, has 10 little fingers and 10 little toes. And I feel really bad, really bad for any baby that does it.
Uh-huh.
Like, what? That's messed up. Anyway, so
you should read more Sandra Boynton.
So because our 4-month-old is not really processing language yet.
Yeah,
anyway,
honestly, you could read anything to that.
I could read anything. And so I grabbed The Hobbit.
Yes.
And we read through all of The Hobbit. And, insofar as she's excited about anything, she was actually pretty excited to sit and read through it, staring at the text on the Kindle. But it kind of got me into like, hey, disclosure, I had never actually read The Hobbit. And so I had bounced real hard off of trying to read The Lord of the Rings.
And as it turns out, they're very, very different.
They're hugely different. And like, I actually really enjoyed The Hobbit. I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this whole Middle Earth thing that I had previously not paid enough attention to.
Yeah. The Hobbit was written as an entertaining book for children. The Lord of the Rings was written as an excuse to invent Elvish.
Right. And at a similar time, I wound up randomly getting a handful of, Lord of the Rings miniatures, and I was like, whatever, these will be fun to paint. But it's led into this sort of extended Lord of the Rings kick. Watching Rings of Power, playing Lotro, etc. And honestly, pretty enjoying it. Like, Lotro is an old game.
Yes, it is.
But also, there are not a lot of games from that era that have survived.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. It's interesting to go into Lotro and look at why. And I mean, the other disclosures, the other reason I booted up Lotro is for work research.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Lotro just released an expansion. Their expansion is like one of the ballsiest expansions I've ever seen for an MMO. It adds basically no max level content. It adds the equivalent of like 2 dungeons in a raid. That's it.
Yeah, they do this semi-regularly. Like,
yeah,
expansions that basically are entirely like, here's stuff that took place before, the beginning of the game. Go have fun. And mostly the sort of people who are still playing Lord of the Rings Online are very much on board for this.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing that this new expansion is a revamped 1 to 30 experience.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I booted up the game and took a look at... I booted up the game to look at what they were doing in the store and some other stuff, but when I booted up the game and looked at my characters, they were basically all low 20s. Like, I never made it to level 30 in this game.
That early Lone Lands is rough.
Yeah, like I just bounced. So I picked it up and tried the new thing, and like, it's where it puts you in the world is really weird.
I don't love it, but I can see why somebody who's played the other one a lot might.
Yeah, like I hated the other one, and it was enough to drive me out of the game. And so basically, I basically started this new character, and like, I'm level 62, 61, almost 62.
Well, they've also cranked up the XP a lot. Like, the highest I had ever made it previously, I think, was 36.
Yeah. Well, they cranked up the XP a lot. They cranked down... I hesitate to say the difficulty, because it's not really the difficulty so much as it was just like, it wasn't that you died a lot. It was that every fight was a grind.
Yes.
Yeah, time to kill was really long.
It was.
And like...
And also, you don't need to, hang around in the Shire grinding however many slugs for that virtue trait, and then however many wolves for that other virtue trait.
You can still do it if you really want to. But...
You can. You just get some like Lotro points for it now. Virtue traits are running off of.
If you want that, or like one of the 100 billion titles you can get in the game.
So many titles. To be clear to everyone out there, this is a game that is about to hit its 16th anniversary, that reached the end of Lord of the Rings, the story, 5 years ago.
Yeah, they've been slowly adding content, tracking the path of the Fellowship. And like, then they got there. And I guess it was, what do we do next?
And they've basically been alternating between like, here's what's happening after the fall of Sauron, and here's stuff that happened before the point at which the game began, which is basically, just before the beginning of the books.
Yeah.
So like, you can now hook up with Boromir as he's making his way to Rivendell and see what that was all about. or go off and see what all the dwarves were doing during all of this up in the region of Erebor.
Yeah, which honestly, if you're gonna make a Lord of the Rings game and not have it just be a retelling of the existing story, like it's kind of a cool it's kind of a cool thing to see, like, hey, here's all of these other little stories that are going on in the background.
Yeah, because the whole thing with Lord of the Rings Online from the get-go was that you were this, you were a random person who basically keeps crossing paths with the Fellowship. Like you're not going with them for any great length of time, but you keep running into them. You end up in Rivendell at the same time as them, and various stuff like that. But you're off dealing with other things most of the time. So more opportunity to show you, crossing paths with members of the Fellowship, and also off dealing with other things. Like yesterday, I was in the Hall of Theoden when Gandalf, confronted Grima, and that whole thing happened. Turns out I was there.
Yeah.
Book never said I wasn't there, so I can be there.
And other times it's like, hey, what was going on? What was going on over here while the Fellowship is doing its thing? Oh, hey, you're gonna do a bunch of work to help, the shards of Narsil get reforged.
Yeah, like that's a thing that happened. We don't really know anything about, like, at this point in the story, it was broken. The sword was broken, and at this point in the story, the sword has been reforged and is delivered to Aragorn. How did it happen? Well, apparently we did it, or at least helped.
Yeah, but it's kind of, if you're gonna tell a bunch of, there's a bunch of like, hey, dwarves are going to go fight now that they know that there's a bunch of crap in Moria. They're gonna go fight it and try to take it back. And like, yeah, all right. They've simplified combat, and I think largely for the better. I'm playing a lore master.
Wow, that would have been a mistake when the game came out.
Oh my god,
it's not anymore.
No, it's great now. Like,
lore masters are insane.
This is so cool. Like, this is what I wanted this class to be when I first started playing this game. And like, honestly, it might be overpowered.
Oh, it is. Lore master is absolutely overpowered in landscape. It's absurd.
Like, it wasn't until I am just now in like the 60s getting to mobs near my level that I don't just absolutely flatten.
Lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt is ridiculous.
Is Lore Master the one that's got pets?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, you're basically botting. That's what it's always felt like. It's like you're dual boxing.
100% honestly, I don't even have my pet out half the time.
Yeah, the pet doesn't really get to do much these days.
Like,
nothing survives long enough in the face of a lore master for the pet to be needed.
Right. No, it's wild. This class was bad before.
Well, same's true with Guardian. Like, Guardian used to feel pretty survivable, but like couldn't kill much of anything very well. And now it's just like, I roll over top of things.
Yeah, it seems like basically everything hits a lot harder than it used to. Like even the pure DPS classes like Champion, like I will occasionally just roll up on a thing and murder it in one hit. But it's particularly noticeable with the classes that weren't DPS classes, and so tended to just take forever to kill a thing.
Yeah,
it's really not a problem anymore.
I was reading patch notes, and it sounds like one of the classes that they're looking at modifying is the captain, and the captain they feel just doesn't have enough personal DPS right now, and so they're going to be trying to like it looks like solo ability is a big focus right now.
Yes, which I have been able to solo a lot of the game, and I have exactly one quest in my log that I was like, oh, I'm going to do this solo, and I walked in and got absolutely massacred. I was like, okay, that one said Fellowship, and it meant it. Got it.
Well, I mean, like in a game that's this old, most everyone is soloing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they want any new players at all to be able to play the game, it kind of has to be soloable.
Yeah.
It does feel very old to play this game.
Okay, so the thing is, like, playing this game today feels like my memories of playing EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot.
Oh, yes.
Even though it's a contemporary of World of Warcraft. Like,
this is a game that came out a couple of years after World of Warcraft had come out, but it is still, and you can see a little bit of like World of Warcraft's impact on it. I feel like you could see more of it back then than you can now, honestly. But mostly it harkens back to like DAOC. I mean, it's Turbine. This is also a game that's changed hands like 3 times in its lifetime.
Yeah, now I think it is being managed by the folks that manage DAOC.
It's Standing Stone now doing development, and which is former Turbine. Like,
well, I think it was like Turbine and Mythic folks blended together or something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I believe it's the same company bought DAOC and the Turbine games.
Yep.
And like honestly, the caretaking is pretty decent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think this is a game that I would want to get like super serious about, but also it's a little hard to get super serious about a 15-year-old game.
Yeah.
Like it's a romp through an IP that I've been enjoying lately.
I mean, like it admittedly did a better job with storytelling than World of Warcraft did in vanilla.
Oh yeah. Honestly,
yes.
I think that I've played some really good stories. I mean, it's still struggle, like the delivery still struggles because you're reading text boxes in quests, but like, but they have some really nice instanced scripted sequences. When they do things that are fully voiced, they're quite good.
Yeah. The main problem they had in the early story, I mean, the first problem was the epic quest was for groups. You are not allowed to solo the epic quest. If you're wanting to do this solo, go away. That has since been fixed. You can now basically get a little buff when you go into an epic quest instance, when you do any of the fellowship quests or the epic quests that make you powerful enough that you can handle this stuff. And then B, a lot of times in the early epic quest, you kind of feel like you're playing second banana to the actual hero of the story, which is a problem. I mean, you know, you're doing an instance with Legolas, and you know, it's hard as a 30 some odd level, you know, whatever, to feel as badass as Legolas.
They do. Your relative banana-ness is so much better now.
Yes, this much improved in Mines of Moria and going on from there.
Yeah. And like you can, when I played through the intro, like the new starting experience, like you run into Boromir, and I mean, you've never met the guy. He's famous. Like he's famous because he's the Prince of Gondor, but he's like cool. You seem capable. Let's do stuff because we're capable people. And like that feels pretty good. It's like, am I a Prince of Gondor going to Rivendell for some reason? Like, no, I've got my own stuff that I'm doing, and you part ways after an appropriate amount of time. But it's also like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm I don't feel like I'm an extra.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm playing a parallel story that is just as interesting, but is going in a different direction. And like, yeah, it's hotbar combat, and yeah, it's, I have a truly outrageous number of abilities.
Yeah, there are too many buttons.
But like, it's interesting. I have a truly outrageous number of abilities, but I don't actually feel like I have too many buttons. I have like 8 buttons that I press on a regular basis, and that's fine. And this may be the like lore masters are brutally overpowered, so I don't actually have to use half of my buttons.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
I only ever get to push 2 or 3 buttons before the thing's dead.
Yeah, so it works out.
Yeah, I think as a champion, I've got like 6 individual single target attacks. I usually get to use like 2.
I have all of these pets that aren't the giant bear, and I've never figured out why I would use anything that's not the giant bear. I'm never summoning a stupid bird. I can tell you that much.
That used to be the starting pet, wasn't it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, Lord Master's not what I'm thinking of then. What's the one that's got like the human pets?
Captain.
It's
Captain. Okay.
No, Lord Master has animal pets.
Yeah.
It used to be that the weird swamp plant thing was the pet you used. Blanking on what those are called.
I don't have it because it's not my spec, but one of the pets you can get as a lore master is a baby eagle. And like, I know I just said baby eagle, but like these are Lord of the Rings eagles.
Yeah, eagles they're eagles.
Plus I get to run around with a staff and a sword, which rules. It's like I have a hard time recommending that anybody play this game, but like if you really wanted some Lord of the Rings flavor, if you really wanted like a Lord of the Rings flavored, low intensity RPG fix, you could do a lot worse.
Well, I think to me it's like, do you want to go back in time and experience what MMOs were like prior to WoW really taking off?
Yeah.
Then here's this parallel path that evolved on its own.
Yeah. It's like this is what, this is the first few steps of something that could have been super different. And like especially now, I think there's a lot of what do MMOs look like if WoW is not the model?
Also, Landroval is just a charming server.
It really is.
I reflexively turned off world chat because I saw that there was world chat, and 20 odd years of MMO experience told me turn that off immediately.
And in fact, world chat on Landroval is wonderful.
Yeah, it's like genuinely enjoyable to read, and I'm deeply unprepared for this. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Lots and lots of active role players on Landroval. Lots and lots of random concerts on Landroval.
Yeah, hang around Bree long enough and a concert will happen. Guaranteed.
Oh yeah, this is the game that gave you it has a music system that, in addition to being like 10 years older than FF14's, is terrifyingly more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
Most people in FF14 are using how shall we say, external programs to make their music system work more like this.
Yeah. I mean, there are definitely people who plug in a legitimate, actual, real deal keyboard as an input device for this game. And that's bonkers to me. Just absolutely crazy. But yeah, like FF14 does not have a stranglehold on like cheerful, welcoming communities. I mean, the one thing that I have seen that you run into are like just unbelievable LOTR pedants.
This is the server where the mega lore nerds tend to hang out. It's true.
like every so often somebody would be like, "Oh man, I really enjoyed the latest episode of Rings of Power," and just like that's what sets off the channel.
Yes.
But no, I've noticed that both Lotro and bizarrely the Middle Earth Minis game have just like really chill, really cheerful communities. And I don't know what it is about the IP that seems to get, just delightful little communities.
Hobbits.
Anyone still interested in the IP is definitely a certain kind of person, I think.
Yeah.
It's fair.
I mean, there are a lot of people playing this game who basically just hang out in the Shire.
It's true.
Because why would you want to go anywhere else?
I mean, it's pretty there.
I mean, if nothing else, the prequel content adds a lot more cute Hobbit towns.
Oh yeah, there's an unbelievably immense number of Hobbit towns.
Yeah, you can hang out now with the hobbits that wear shoes. The stewards.
So many hobbits.
Yeah, that's one of the things that really impressed me is that in the interim between the last time I played this game, which was which was in the middle of the Riders of Rohan stuff, and now they have filled in the gaps that existed in the map.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like, because it used to be there was a big gap between Erthluin and the Shire that you just, you just got kind of like teleported from the one to the other, and now the Yonder Shire is there and is a whole area. And then the whole space south of the Lone Lands where Cardalin and Swanfleet are now, like that was not there.
I mean, the the thing that got me was you can zoom in and out of the map, and when I opened the map and looked at it, I was like, okay, yeah, that's the map of this game that I remember. You can zoom out, and that map of the game that I remember is like maximum a third of the game now.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even that map of the game that you remember, half of the zones that are now like actual zones on that map weren't in when the game first came out.
Yeah, like the amount of additional space that is in this game is stunning.
Yeah, like literally Eriador was the original map, and everything north of the North Downs and south of the Lone Lands was not yet in the game when the game very first came out. And then also like the Undershire was not there yet. Because even Angmar, that like Angmar was the very first new zone post-launch.
This game has forced me to reconsider a long-held view I've had. I think I made the comment, I read The Hobbit and was like, oh, this is why people like dwarves. Mm-hmm. Like, this was the dwarf moment for a lot of people.
Yep, that's where they all come from.
I'm playing through Moria. I get mega dungeons now. Like, I think that the Moria content in Lotro is probably the best mega dungeon I've ever seen written.
Moria is amazing. And like when they announced that they were doing Moria and like going in, like there was a lot of questioning, like how are they going to make this work? Like it's just going to be dark and depressing, and no, they like it's big enough that they actually have recognizably different areas of Moria.
Mm-hmm.
Like depending, how deep you are and which section you're dealing with, like it's massively different, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, it is a really, really neat, and it's also, you can also navigate. It's navigable, which I cannot say about some of the other zones. Oh wow, is the map of this game bad?
Yeah, no, and the quest direction system is awful. If you follow the arrow on the map, you will not get to where you're intending to go. There will be a mountain or something else in the way.
That quest direction system that was added way after the game came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you just can't traverse the map cleanly like that. Like,
and then also a lot of the maps have been improved since they initially came out. Like Breland and Lone Lands and the Trollshaws have new maps now. Because you can tell the difference if you look at, say, like Breland versus the North Downs. North Downs still has its original map, and the difference is very noticeable.
I'll say this is a game where roads are real important.
Yes.
I'm too used to just cutting off cross country to get to somewhere. But no, you really want to follow the roads, because like you're not going to be able to cross a mountain range or something like that. Also, this game has legit falling damage, which is not something I've been used to for a long time.
Yeah.
Yep. Fall too far, you'll break your leg.
My kingdom for Featherfall. So there's something about the level design. Putting aside the unforgivable crime of putting unscalable cliffs in the way of you and your destination and not making it clear in the slightest how you bypass them. Otherwise, the level design is fascinating. Like it puts me in mind of like Ghost of Tsushima, where it's big and expansive and it's almost sculpted. It feels like it's sculpted to make you stop and take in the view sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of vistas along the way, especially if you're following the road.
Yeah. Like if you're following the road, you'll hit vistas, and oftentimes those vistas are legitimately useful in planning out how you're going to get to where you need to go.
Yeah. Like one of the big appeals of this game, like from the get-go, was you're traveling along this, in the footsteps of Bilbo and Thorin and company, or of the Fellowship, and get to come across these things that you recognize from the books and actually see them, and they're amazing. And also, holy crap, zones are big.
Yeah, they are.
And remember, we didn't have mounts.
Right.
when this game came out.
Like, that's the good thing about
we were walking all this.
The current state of things is you get a mount real fast.
Yes.
No, mounts were real late. I think maybe at level 40 got a mount. Maybe not. I don't. It was pretty late.
When I started playing in earnest, it was around Rohan, and with the purchase of Rohan, I got a mount that would work anytime.
Yeah,
and that was a huge selling point for me.
Because back when I originally was playing this game and was working my way through the Lone Lands and the Troll Shaws, it was all on foot, and those zones are huge.
Lone Lands is real big when you're running across it. Stable paths were real important.
Yeah, I was reminded of how big when I came back, because the downside of them like replacing the maps for those zones is it apparently also cleared out the stable masters. So I couldn't fast travel to Rivendell anymore, which is where you got to go to swap out your legendary items for the new style legendary items. So I had to like go to Bree and then go get as far to the Lone Lands as I could from Bree, which was about halfway, and then just hoof it the rest of the way. And I had a horse, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was still a long way.
Like, I can remember playing this around the time it launched and having moments where, like, yeah, no, I'm not going to go out and help somebody because, like, that's 30 minutes of real world travel to get across.
Like, no, that dude on the other side of the Shire, they're boned because I'm not going out there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. And even with fast travel, like, I don't think I vaguely remember that I don't think swift travel was immediately in.
No,
I don't think it was originally.
Like, I think it was all,
or at least only between like Bree and a couple other places, maybe. I don't even know if that was there yet.
The equivalent of WoW Griffins was you get to ride a mount at mount speed the whole way along the roads.
Yeah, and you can push a button and dismount at any point. But also, you're just going to be on this thing forever.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of quality of life things that make it tolerable for me. I picked up something because I wanted cosmetics, and it gave me a bunch of these, like, I don't know, the secondary currency. And one of the benefits of the secondary currency is almost every quest turn in, I can spend one of these things that I have like 400 of to
the mithril coins.
The mithril coins to instantly teleport to the quest turn in, and I do that.
Yep, that's how they get you.
I don't have lifetime, and I regret it.
This is the one lifetime subscription that I have never regretted getting.
Yeah,
it has paid for itself so many times over. But most recently, I came back, and I wanted, like, the first problem I had on coming back was my entire inventory was full because it was already nearly full. And then I logged back in, and there's new anniversary gifts and things. And so I logged off my main character and went and tried a new character for a little bit, whose inventory was only half full of anniversary gifts and things. But then I went out to the Lotro store and realized that I had like 55,000 Lotro points built up. So I just bought every single inventory expansion that I didn't already own, and now it's not a problem. And I still have almost 40,000 Lotro points left, and not sure what I'm going to spend them on.
Yeah, right.
And I was able to pick up a kinship house for us, and I never have to worry about maintenance for it because I have permanent VIP. So it will never get demolished, even if I just completely stop playing the game. That kinship house is there forever.
I don't know where half the mounts that I have come from, but I have this really amazing reindeer mount that I'm riding around on. And you would think, oh, like a holiday thing. No, it's just a big frickin' reindeer with like silver bridle and all sorts of stuff. Giant horns.
Might be from Fornost. Not sure.
Ah, maybe. It's a majestic mount.
God, yeah, I've got so many goats and ponies and elk and so much stuff.
Elk of flowing silver, wherever that came from.
I think that's from getting one of the expansions.
Okay.
I remember when I originally played this game, being deep in WoW, I was like, man, this game has no sense of humor. Where are all of the pop culture quest names, and where are all of the pun quest names? And I gotta say, they made the correct choice.
They did.
Coming back to it now and being like, oh, this isn't tiresome is real good. And the game absolutely does have a sense of humor.
Yeah, you do find it in places, and there are the occasional pop cultural reference. I'm pretty sure the NPC Colbert the Mad exists in the game.
Fair. I mean, dude earned it.
Yeah.
No, the one that got me recently was
yes, and he hates bears. Bears are the biggest danger in the area. Undead, goblins. No, bears. So yeah.
I feel like I remember this.
There's an unbelievable number of titles in this game, of all kinds of things. Yeah. My favorite one from before was Watcher of Roads, just because I think that's a cool sounding title, and it was not exactly hard to get. You just killed a ton of bandits. But there was one that I saw that somebody else was wearing that I was like, oh, that's cool. I wonder where you get that, because Well Traveled. I was like, oh yeah, that's great. That's like a nice, humble, but like thoughtful kind of title. So I got it recently. In the movies where I forget which hobbit it is, knocks the skeleton down the well in Moria and all the goblins come up.
Fool of a took.
Yeah. If you jump down that well and die, that's how you get the Well Traveled.
Yep.
Oh. That's terrible. I love it.
Yep.
It was awful, but so good. I was like, all right, I'm forced to accept this. But anyway, it's been a nice blast to the past and been my casual gaming.
I'm just happy to like be playing it again and to actually have like other people maybe playing, and maybe, I don't know, maybe we can do some fellowship stuff together at some point. I've got a bunch of ancient fellowship quests that presumably you guys might want to do as well at some point.
I don't even know what group content in this game is like, but I'd try it.
You can learn to do fellowship maneuvers.
That's probably a show. Any final thoughts?
So there's this really fun anime called Bofuri that I watched the first season of a while back, and it's highly entertaining, especially if you enjoy MMOs. The second season is now coming out on Crunchyroll. You should watch it. It's very light and cheerful. Like, what if a game about somebody like playing an MMO where they're not, trapped in the MMO because their helmets have explosives or something. They're just, playing because they want to. And also the main character didn't want to, is a newbie and figured they should put all their points in defense because, they don't want to get hurt. And then through, luck and a little thinking outside of the box, ended up with a set of skills that just synergize way too well. And now all the devs are like super panicked about like, how are we ever going to deal with this? Any boss monster we designed that she can't deal with, like, will be utterly undefeatable by any other player. Oh no.
Hey, it's like that thing that happens in real RPGs.
It's wonderful.
I don't know if any of us will have a chance to play it before the next show, or if we'll have a chance to talk about it on the show. But if you're curious what Tango Gameworks, purveyors of intense horror games, was working on, this wasn't on my bingo card, and it sure is on my to play list now.
The Hi-Fi Rush.
Hi-Fi Rush.
That looks super cool.
That does not look like an intense horror game.
It is not that thing, no.
It looks like a joy. I'm looking forward to giving it a shot when I have a chance.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we will see you again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.